Welcome to RAIN, the Real Estate Investor Growth Network with your hostess, Jen Josie. Join like-minded real estate investors and accelerate your business towards greatness. You will hear step-by-step strategies for success, interviews with real estate rock stars, and we will dig deep into past projects where we bear it all, including the good, the bad, and some just plain ugly. So get excited. Here's the bestower of badassery herself, the real Jen Josie. Listener discretion is advised.
Hi, and welcome back. I'm Jen Josie, creator of RAIN, the Real Estate Investor Growth Network. Whoop, 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 whoop. Yes, on today's episode, we have a very special guest that is going to share their badassery. But before we begin, here is today's badassery bestowment. It is brought to you by the word integrity. The official definition for the word integrity is the quality of being honest and having strong moral principles. I chose this to be today's badassery bestowment because sometimes we just need a little reminder that a true badass exudes integrity. In the real estate investment industry, there are many that lack integrity. There are some house flippers that cut corners and provide a shoddy product. There are contractors that will take your money and disappear. There are lenders that overpromise and underserve. There are wholesalers that claim a property only needs $10,000 in repairs when the entire house should be gutted. I'm sure many of you listeners out there had a specific person come to mind. Now, think about that person and ask yourself, how successful are they now? The truth is, integrity always wins. If you want your business to last, you must include integrity as one of your core business values. I'm going to end the badassery bestowment with some words from Brené Brown, who, by the way, her level of badassery exceeds most. She describes the word integrity as the following: choosing courage over comfort, choosing what is right over what is fun, fast, and easy, and choosing to practice our values rather than simply professing them. So I am so excited for today's episode because we have a very special guest who, I don't even think she realizes it. She was such a huge influence in my life. So we have with us the amazing MeiLani Hock. MeiLani is the mother of 5. She's an award-winning real estate investor, Airbnb host, coach, property manager, and founder of Why Not Me Academy, which focuses on activating people to create the lives that they want by turning their trials into triumphs and building their passive income through Airbnb or using OPP or other people's money. MeiLani's passion is getting people to stop dreaming and start doing. And by the way, MeiLani is also a member of RAIN. Whoop, 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 whoop. Thank you, MeiLani, for joining us on the Real Estate Investor Growth Network podcast.
Oh, I'm so excited to be here with one of my favorite people in the world. I'm really excited.
Oh my goodness, you are just awesome. So we heard your bio, but tell us a little background on you, where you're from. You have, you took me to your church one time and I got to see a little more inside on MeiLani. So give us a little bit quick background.
Yes, and that is a true testament of how much I love any listeners. If you're listening, then obviously you love Jen, but Jen is so awesome. She's like a true friend, that like one of the truest friends. I would say I'm still working on that attribute, to be honest. I'm not an amazing friend, but Jen is an amazing friend. She'll text you at random times, but also when I was really excited that there was our temple was opening up, and I just wanted to share it with my friends. And Jen's like, "Hey, do you have time for lunch?" And I was like, "Yeah, but do you also want to come to see the new temple that opened?" And she's like, "Yeah, sure." Like anybody who really wants to understand you and your beliefs, I just love Jen because she is like that. Anyways, so my background is that I was actually born in Hawaii. That's where my name came from. So that's where the MeiLani came from. My dad was actually building churches. But I grew up in California for 30 years, went to school in Utah, met my husband. We lived in Mexico. We lived in Washington State. We kind of bounced around a little bit at the beginning of our marriage, but we've been in North Carolina for almost 10 years now. Wow. And we love it. And we kind of thought we were going to come out here. We were kind of hobos at the time and just like, oh, let's go try it for a few years. And now we've been here 10 years and it's like, oh my gosh, we have like a home base. That's okay. We're like real grown-ups now, I guess.
Well, Raleigh and the Triangle area is lucky to have you. So
Thanks.
I know you from real estate. So how did you get into real estate investing?
Yes. Okay. So when I met my husband and we were dating, we were both really poor college students and we used to go on these long walks. And I have Robert Kiyosaki to thank for getting married to my husband. Because we were on one of these long walks and we started talking about Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And it was like sparks just flew. Like it was like a Hallmark movie, but like, you know, real estate investor style. It was just like, oh my gosh, you love that book. I love that book.
Listeners can't see her, but she is just like moving around, talking about romance. Keep going, MeiLani. This is great.
It was so romantic. I'm just saying, any real estate investor would have liked this kind of Hallmark movie. And I remember coming home and calling my mom and being like, Mom, I'm so in love with this boy. Like we both have the same big goals. We're going to be real estate investors. Like it's going to be amazing. And that was awesome. We fell in love. We got married a year later and it was great. But then on those big long walks, we had talked about, you know, all the things we wanted to do. And it was this long list. And one of them was having a big family. And the good news is that we were really good at that one. And so
I would say so for someone who doesn't have children. And she's like, yeah, I have 5. I'm like, 5?
One of our good friends, Terry Thayer, always is like, so how are the 13? Or like, he always makes up random numbers. It's only 5 guys. I got a basketball team and then I was done. So we started having each of these kids, and with each beautiful child that we had, we loved growing our big family, but I felt more and more responsibility of having a responsible job. And so my husband and I both worked in sales or different, you know, at the beginning I was in international development. That's what my master's degree is in actually. So we didn't really talk about that, but I used to go over to Africa and help women with microcredit lending to get their businesses up and running. And so I loved my career. But as with kids, I didn't feel like I could be traveling to Africa as much. And anyway, so we went back to like safe, what we call, I'm using my air quotes for those listening, safe jobs. And those big dreams of real estate investing and living a passive lifestyle got pushed. But we were loving life with our big family, but you know, the responsibility became heavier. And it was actually, I might cry. I didn't notice. Jen knows I always cry, and I'm getting so much better now that it's been so long since I've been pregnant, because this is the longest I've not been pregnant in over a decade. And I'm finding I can control my emotions finally again after the last decade. But today is the 6-year anniversary of when my son was diagnosed with brain cancer.
Wow.
And so this morning we had a celebration to celebrate how, you know, the miracle of him still being here and how lucky we are. We went and played tennis early this morning, and I just can't stop looking at him today and thinking how lucky we are. So 6 years ago when he was diagnosed with brain cancer, and it was right on the brainstem, which controls your breathing and swallowing. And it was a very serious case. And in fact, within 24 hours, he was rushed into brain surgery, and tomorrow is actually his birthday. So today we celebrate not only 9/11 and the things that our history has on 9/11, but we celebrate that he's still our miracle. And then yet tomorrow is his birthday, when he got the best gift on his second birthday, which was a clean brain. And then we went through radiation, and we went through all these different treatments and trying to figure out what we could do. And at that moment, I felt like I had lost control of everything. That safe job that I had been working in for a long time to provide for my kids, after about a month after AJ was diagnosed, they decided to move their offices to California. And so I didn't get fired, but they left without me. I mean, that was rude. And so that safe job that I felt like, oh, I have to be loyal to them and they'll be loyal to me. They weren't loyal. They left me in my time of need. And so that happened. And we were just going to all these doctor's appointments, and I just felt like I was losing control. I had zero control over anything. And I don't know, maybe I'm a little bit of a control freak, and I needed something. I needed something to feel like there was a purpose. And I remember very vividly saying to my husband one morning, among a few months after the diagnosis, and when we were going through all this, I just sat there crying, and I said, I just can't sit around and wait for him to die anymore. And that's what I feel like I'm doing. and I have to do something. And I said, what are we doing? Like, we have these beautiful kids and we say, you can be anything you want when you grow up. Like, what do you want to be? And at that point in my life, I was not doing those things that I wanted to be doing at all, other than my wonderful kids. I had these wonderful kids, but I never got to see them. I was working hard, trying to still get to doctor's appointments. It was crazy. It was crazy time, right? And so I said, what? You remember when we like fell in love? Remember those walks? We used to talk about those crazy things. What if, now call me crazy, we actually did some of those things we talked about doing? And I'm so grateful for an amazing husband who said, well, we've kind of got a lot going on right now. Are you sure you want to do that? And I said, I know I want to do this. And he said, well, I trust you. So if you want to do it, let's make it happen. And so where better to start than flipping houses, because that's what Robert Kiyosaki had told me to do. And so I believed him and, told me through reading his book. It's not like we're really, besties, but whatever. And so about within 3 months, I had my first house. And my goal was to do 15 that first year, and I did 8. And with 4 kids, one going through brain cancer treatments and one being at the time of brain cancer, he was 7 weeks old. So I had 4 babies. The first one was just starting kindergarten, but 8 houses, I'm still proud of that. Even though I didn't get the 15, 8 houses, I was really proud of that. I started wholesaling and notes and new construction. And so over the next, 3, 5, 6 years, I've done a lot of the different stuff and just really, really loved it. And I love real estate investing. Now, at the beginning of this year, my husband left his corporate America job to join us full time doing what we do. And so, hey, we're living the dream. And I can honestly look my kids in the eye with integrity and say, what do you want to be when you grow up? Because I believe you can do whatever you really want to do, because now I'm not just being, just blowing smoke. Now I'm actually living what I'm telling them.
And you set that example for them. And for you to say, I had a goal of doing 15, you had 4 babies at home and still flipped 8 properties. And that is such an accomplishment. And I mean, from when I first met you, and we talked in your bio about being an award-winning real estate investor, and I was actually there a night that you won an award. I was like, oh, I just really like her. I want to be friends with her. So, you had that
is probably when I really am like, I just love her. She's like the best. She's like a friend, but like also a cheerleader. Like, I just love you.
And you were pregnant that night when you won.
I was very pregnant. I think I had a baby the next week.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. So you had all these amazing things happen. And, I really looked up to you by thinking she could do this. I can do this. And so through all these successes, was there ever like a stumbling block? Like, what was your biggest stumbling block? Did it change anything to get you to where you are right now?
Oh my goodness. There have been so many stumbling blocks along the way. Definitely. So the biggest one for me, I would say, was like I told you, I thought Robert Kiyosaki was the man. I was going to flip houses. I was going to, so I was focused on flipping houses and wholesaling. I was doing great and building this empire that I was excited about. And then all of a sudden I was leveraged about $5 million. And some people might think that's not that much money, but for me and my family, that was a lot of money. And we got to a point that we were in a lawsuit with one of our contractors who, in my opinion, did not have integrity. And it was the properties that we had 5, 6 new construction houses that were supposed to hit the market in June. Still wasn't happening. There was a bunch of problems going on, and those properties had to sit for 6 months, and they were brand new construction properties. The carrying costs were crazy high. I was in, I would say, full-blown depression mode of curled in a ball in my closet, sobbing because I was literally having nightmares.
And these people trusted you with their money, and you have it invested. And I get it. I mean, I've absolutely been there.
Yes. And I remember sitting when my attorney said, we need to explore options of bankruptcy. And I said, you don't understand. I am literally having nightmares about these people who I love, even if I haven't met my private lenders, because a lot of them I haven't, but I love them. They love me. Like, we've got a friendship. And one of them actually, today's 9/11, actually, when we're recording this, one of them is, they were using their deceased husband's, who died in 9/11, his memorial fund. And I was literally having nightmares of this family that was depending on me to invest that money wisely. And I said to my attorney, there's no way. There is no way. And so I would be curled up in a ball in my closet, and my husband would have to come and pick me up, literally, to try to unball me, because I was vomiting. I was so stressed. I was so nauseous because this horrible contractor, because I had made mistakes too. So I don't want to all blame him, but because of this lawsuit, because of, we had 2 different drive-by shootings on 2 different properties within a month of each other. One was on the week that we were supposed to list it. And it just a bunch of different things that were out of my control. And I felt like I was right back where I had been when my son was being wheeled away by doctors. Like, I didn't have control. I was watching all of these things. Just like I used to be watching my baby who I loved, and I'd have to watch doctors just take him away from me. And I felt like I loved my projects. I know that maybe that's not a fair comparison, but I loved my projects, and I wasn't even allowed to go on to my projects because of these stupid lawsuits we were in. And I felt like I couldn't do anything. I was just powerless, helpless. I couldn't do anything. And, it was at Christmas time when we were finally allowed to put a couple of them back on the market. And it was like, hallelujah, kind of not the greatest time to put houses on the market, mid-December. But we put a couple of the houses back on the market. And I remember taking my oldest to the bus stop. And he, as we're walking to the bus stop, he said, I said to him, and he understands the magic of Christmas. And I said, I haven't seen a letter to Santa. What do you want from Santa Claus this year? And he's like, oh, Mom, it's okay. And I said, no, honey, what do you want? Like, what do you want for Christmas? And in the back of my head, I'm like, I'm not saying that I can like hook you up or anything, because we got some financial issues right now, but I'd really like to know so that I can at least make my best effort to put in a good word. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And so, he said, there's only one thing, Mom. And I said, what's that? And he said, I just want you to sell a house.
Oh my goodness.
Oh my gosh, Jen, my mama heart sank. And I think he even called it one of our houses. Like, we were invested as a family, and he said, I just want us to sell one of our houses. And I of course started crying, and I sent him to the bus, and I said, well, have a good day. That's, have a good day at school. And then I just went home, and I was just like, I prayed. We had been fasting and praying as a family for months. Every single Sunday as a family, we were praying and fasting. And we were praying daily, obviously. But anyway, so, and then it was Christmas Eve. And it was Christmas Eve. Sorry, guys, this is a long story. Sorry, it's a big stumbling block in my life. It was Christmas Eve, and we were playing football as a family, and I got a text, and I started crying. Okay, you see a common thread. I started crying, and that same oldest son came over and was like, Mom, is it? And he said the name of my contractor, because apparently he knows that when Mommy cries, it's usually because of the big bad wolf, that we won't say his name. I said, no, actually, honey, it's not this time. You got your Christmas wish. We just sold one of our houses. On Christmas Eve, you guys, we got an offer on a house on Christmas Eve. It was a Christmas miracle. It was beautiful. He started crying. My whole team came and jumped on me, all of my kids and my husband, and we were smiling and laughing and crying together. And I will never forget being at the bottom of that dog pile and promising that I would never put my family through that again, that I would never put them in a situation that we could lose everything. Everything. We were so close to losing everything. Mm-hmm. And I realized at that point sometimes when I speak to groups, which I love to do, I talk about it being my avalanche moment. Okay. So when this happened, I felt like this avalanche. I had wanted to be on the mountain of real estate investing for so long. And I wanted to see the view that I had thought every real estate investor had of it's so great. Life is just beautiful, blah, 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 blah. And so I had worked my way up the mountain, and then all of a sudden this avalanche came and just buried me. And as I'm digging myself out from the avalanche, I'm realizing, okay, I have three options. Okay. I have three options. I can fight my way to the top of this mountain, and I'm going to flip houses, and I'm going to be the best house flipper, and I'm just going to keep on going to the top, and I am going to get that view. Or I could go back down to the bottom. And I was so scared that if I gave up, if I was like, you know what, real estate investing it's way too hard. If I went back to the bottom of the mountain, I was worried I would never get on another mountain again. But then that's when I realized that this avalanche, the snow that had fallen, had created a bridge for me to go to. And as I walked across that bridge, I felt like that for me was Airbnbs and short-term rentals. That as I started to go on that bridge, I realized there were so many more mountains out there for me to climb that I never would have known about if I would have just stayed on my one mountain. And so I am so grateful for rehabbing. I'm grateful that I flipped houses. I'm grateful for wholesaling. I'm grateful that someday maybe I'll even go back to that. But right now, there are other mountains for me to explore in real estate investing that I would have never had the courage to do unless we went through that trial as a family. And so because I had vowed, it took me another probably 2 years, 18 months, I'll say, before I took out another loan from anyone, because I was so scared of being back in that position of owing more than I had control of. So that was my biggest struggle. And that's definitely how it got us to where we are now, which is very heavily involved in short-term rentals.
And, you said, I'm sorry, this is such a long story, but it's so important for our listeners to hear, because a lot of times when people get into this industry, all they want to do is house flipping. And yet real estate investing has so many different spokes to it. And instead of letting the avalanche, take you all the way down to the mountain, you took the third route and you crossed that bridge, and you just found a different mountain to climb. And I love that. So you are, I got to let you take a break here for a second, because I don't know if you realize this, but you are the very reason why I created my own online mastermind. The listeners know that I was a school teacher for many years, and it was at the end of 2018, you asked me to do a beta version of your Why Not Me Airbnb online course. And I think that is that the first one that you did?
Yeah. Yeah.
And it was on there. Am I allowed to tell the embarrassing story about the OPP?
Yes.
Okay. Because in there, and I said this in her bio, I altered her bio just a little bit, because she said, when I'm buying Airbnbs, I use OPP. Yeah, you know me. And I was like, MeiLani, I know you're a good church girl. And do you know what OPP stands for? So I had to explain, and she was like,
other people's properties, Jen. Did you not take the rest of the course? And she's like, well, it also has another meaning. Huh?
So listeners, if you don't know, you can Google it. I'm not going to say it. So,
she started singing it, and I just started singing the song. Yeah, I didn't know what the song meant. Who knows what this song means? I do now, guys. I'm very educated, thanks to Jen.
I'm like, you need to get on the Google. So I took this online course, which was fantastic, by the way. And I have an Airbnb as a result of this. And I did everything to a T that she teaches in this course. And it has saved me a ton of money. We make buckets of money we have a little tiny cabin just outside of Boone, North Carolina, and it brings in so much money a month. So thank you, MeiLani, for that. But when I took your beta course, I was like, because I really missed teaching, and I just put on for my 2019 vision board, I have my 2020, I'm putting the wrong direction because I'm mirrored here, but on my I put on my 2019 vision board, I just cut out this one thing that said online course. And it was you who I said, I like what she did there. I want to try doing that. So thank you, MeiLani. That's then progressed into creating my online mastermind, which is RAIN, which you are a part of. And so it started with you. So thank you for that.
Oh, I love that.
Yes. And
I love that.
Rain has become a passion for me. So tell us a little bit more about this passion that you have created here through Airbnb and, all the other stuff. Because I know the first course was Why Not Me Airbnb. So start there and tell us how that evolved.
Yeah. So it's like Jen said, it started because I was loving Airbnb life. I wanted people to know about the other mountains out there. Like you said, so many people see the HGTV and they're like, I want to do that. Well, there's other things that are actually, I think, easier and make better money. And I mean, depending on your goals, but can be a lot more passive. When I was flipping houses, there's no way I could be living the life that I am right now, which we'll talk about a little bit later. But I was working my tail off when I was flipping houses, and I was on projects a lot. And I kept on trying to hire project managers, but apparently I didn't train them very well, because I still had to be on my projects a lot. And on Saturday mornings, I had this dream of the view of the top of the mountain was going to be, with my kids on the weekends. And no, on Saturday mornings, I was at my projects, so I also was a teacher. I used to teach 8th grade history and miss teaching. I love speaking, which has been a new passion of about 5 years ago that I started doing public speaking and inspirational speaking, motivational speaking, but also about like training on, real estate investing, but also on time management and about mindset and about a bunch of different things. And I love doing that. But I'm not going to be able to go to every stage. I'm not going to be I just don't have time for that. And so I was like, you know what? Let me just make a course. I'll record it once, and then Airbnb is always changing. So I try to add more into the course and keep it updated. But that's the great thing about online education, is that it's not just here's a box, go watch the CDs, DVDs, whatever. Like, we don't do that anymore, right? It's an online course that I can keep on updating and educating. And so Why Not Me Academy, right now it's the Airbnb course, but in the works, we have a podcasting course, a public speaking course, an online how to make an online course. So all these different courses that it's like, so many people are like, oh yeah, like I just want a friend that's done it. I remember when I started the business, I was like, if I could just take people to lunch. Anybody who's worth taking to lunch does not have time to take you to lunch. And so I wanted to provide an affordable way of, okay, instead of taking me to lunch, just sit down. Instead of buying me lunch, buy this course and sit down for 8 hours, because anything I'm going to tell you in 45 minutes lunch is not going to help you get anywhere. And so I found so many people saying, can I take you to lunch? Can I just pick your brain a little bit? Can I just do this? And I was like, let me record it. And here it is. And here are the templates I use. And here are the contracts I use and everything. And so that's how it started. And then it just kind of evolved into, now I'm getting a lot of questions on this. Let me turn it into a course. And so over the next few months, you'll see these courses starting to roll out more and more of different things that we've done. And it's like, hey, we've done it. It was actually pretty easy, but there are some hard things. Here's the way we did it. And I also like interviewing people like Jen, who have created their own podcast or whatever, so that you see different people's opinions on that. And so that's kind of, I don't want to sales pitch on that too hard, but anyway, so that's my passion, is teaching people that these things are so doable. It drives me bonkers when my students or people who hear me speak, they're like, oh, I just wish I could do that. I just don't have the time, or I just don't have the money right now. Y'all, I didn't have money. I had a kid going through brain cancer treatments that were costing, every time he got an MRI, was costing like $7,000. So yeah, we didn't have money. You got to borrow money sometimes to make money. And I hate to say that, because obviously I am like very, very cautious about borrowing money, but there are ways. I'm saying that there are ways. And I don't want you to think that we just go into debt for all these things, because there are obviously good things to go into debt and bad things. But going with that excuses story, part of the story was when I was going through cancer treatments, I went to a seminar about real estate investing to see if I really wanted to do that. And at one point I got kind of nauseous of, what am I doing here? Of course I can't do this. Like, I have young kids. Like, this is ridiculous. I got a babysitter for the day so I could come here. Like, I'm wasting my money by paying a babysitter to sit and listen to this seminar. And I got up and I left. And as I was leaving the ballroom, one of the salespeople was very good at their job and came to me, and Jen knows this, that he came to me because I really wish I knew who it was. And he came to me like, hey, how you doing? Or will we see you later today? And I was like, you know what? our family's going through a lot right now. I've got a son going through brain cancer treatments. We just got a lot going on right now. And I really want to do this someday. Just now's not the time. And I remember for the first time in months, somebody said something to me that just blew me away, because he said, yeah, I guess we all have our different excuses we can use to stop us from meeting our potential.
Excuses. Oh,
and I was like, I'm sorry, what now? But like, it was so refreshing, because people had been tiptoeing around me as the cancer mom for months. Like, oh, you're okay. Like, just survive. And all of a sudden he was calling it an excuse not to hit my potential. And it was like this wake up call of, oh my gosh, what if he's right? What if I can do the things that I talk about doing? And so that's when you read my bio, when you talk about it, I really have this goal of getting people to stop dreaming and start doing. And there are so many different avenues to make that happen. So
and that's also, tell us about the title. So it's Why Not Me? So, because I love how that evolved. So
I'm glad you asked that. Yeah. So a lot of people during cancer treatments, one of my best friends said, do you just sit around and think, why me? And you guys, there have been many times that I have said, why me? Why me? But during cancer treatments, we had like this amazing bubble around our home and around our family, I feel like, because so many people were praying for us. So we actually didn't feel that why me during that phase. We had this feeling of why not me? Why not us? We believe that some higher power, whatever that is for you, for us, we feel like God has this potential that he sees in us. And he was allowing this trial to happen to our family because he has great things that he needs us to do. And so he needs us to be great people. He needs us to have those muscles, those spiritual muscles that have been tried and tested, so that when really hard things come, we're ready and we can help others through it. So instead of thinking, why me? Why did this happen to our family? We think, why not me? Why not me to do something amazing? And I've also used that as, I have a lot of friends that will like look on Pinterest and look on Instagram and think, oh, why do they get to do that? Why do they get to go on vacation? Oh, I wish I could do that. I really wish I could. Stop saying those things and start making a plan. I love right now, I'm looking at Jen's vision board in the back of things that she is going to do, that she's setting a real path to make those things happen. She's not just dreaming about it. She is creating a path and a daily regimen, a daily plan to get her one step closer. Now, y'all, so sometimes when I do these interviews, I'm talking to mommy blogs, right? And so I want to take the moment to say there are different phases in life. And if your phase is changing diapers and making bottles all day, that is a phase of life. And even if you can get one thing
People
done,
do that?
People do that, Jen. It's not just animals out there. Some of us have kids. And I don't know, do you have to like change, you have to take your dogs for a walk, right?
I have to clean up an accident every once in a while.
Okay. So we're there. But I just think it's important to remember that give yourself a little grace and celebrate that if you can just get one thing done each day at some phases of your life, if you're going through your biggest avalanche, if you're going through whatever, just get something done and know that you're one day closer than you were yesterday.
So listeners out there, it is obvious that MeiLani is this amazing influence and she is a great coach. You started talking about it just for a second, but I really want you to share with our listeners how you help people have the courage to stop dreaming and start doing. How can they connect with you and learn from you? Because, you are such a positive influence in my life and you're so down to earth as well. And it's just, I know you have so much to offer people. So how can they connect with you?
Yes. Thanks for asking. So our website is whynotmeacademy.com, or I'm trying to be better at Instagram. MeiLani Hock on Instagram is a good way to follow us as well. But on the website, you can see what we've got going on that has, my speaking. It has a link to the different courses and stuff. So there's more coming because, we got lots to do and we're excited to share it with the world. But yeah, Why Not Me Academy is really where where we house all of that. So,
well, As I was saying, you are such an influence. So if you had some badassery bestowment to share with our group, what would be your badassery bestowment? Let's hear it.
Jen knows that one of the quotes I live by, one of the mantras I live by. So we've got the why not me, why not you to go do something great, but also build a life that you don't need a vacation from. Build a life. One of my wake up calls was these beautiful children that I have, and I was barely seeing them. And I was like, why? Like, I want to create a life that I can spend with my kids and I can spend doing the things that I enjoy instead of, I remember being in a job that it was like, okay, we've got 10 days off this year. What are we going to do with them? And even if you're in that phase, what are you doing that morning? What are you doing that, after work? Like, create a life that you don't need a vacation from. Even if you're still in a W-2 job, even if you're still working 9 to 5, what are you doing before and after that? Are you creating a plan where each day you are choosing to live an intentional life? That if you're like, I don't have any time, I get home, I'm so tired, whatever. You might need to wake up a little bit earlier to get some stuff done. You might need to, you are choosing your life. And so, sorry, this isn't just one more thing, but so my takeaway is, you'll see, I use this as like a hashtag a lot because it's super passionate. I talk about stop dreaming, start doing, but live intentionally because you get to choose every morning who's in control and what you're going to do with that control. So wake up and live an intentional life and recognize you are choosing to go to that job. And if that job brings you joy, awesome. What are you choosing to do before and after that job? So
I know you have something coming up that you are choosing to do. This blows my mind. So share, if you don't mind, share with the audience, what are you planning in the next year?
In the next 3 days, Jen, we are out of our house. So this is actually my parents' house this is our first stop. So a couple years ago when I was making my vision board, I was making my why. And I said, I want to travel the world with my kids. I want to travel the world. And so because of stupid COVID, right now we are just starting with the US. And so for the next 4 months, we will be traveling across the US, and I've got my 5 kids. I got my husband. We'll just be living and evaluating Airbnbs as we go, but we run our Airbnbs virtually. Basically, we have a small team that helps us run them on the ground, but we can work from anywhere, and so we're taking advantage of that. I don't know if you've ever seen, there's a WFA group, like a movement out there, work from anywhere movement, and so we're taking the WFA movement and we're taking advantage of world schooling. And so our plan is to do the US this year, and hopefully next year health will be better and lives will be back to normal. And we're hoping to go do Europe next year. And then after that, we'll just see where else takes us. So, but taking our kids to have those, to make those memories, but also to explore cultures and give them that exposure is just a huge passion of mine.
I'm so impressed, and you are truly living a life that you don't need a vacation from. So I love that you are building those memories with your family. That's amazing. So thank you for sharing all of that. And I like to end my podcast with what makes you a badass. And badass is actually an acronym. So the first B in badass is book. Tell us a book besides the Bible that made it.
Yes.
Tell us a book that has made a huge difference in your life.
I would say the book in Essentialism by Greg McKeown. I love Essentialism. It's very similar. Another one that I just read recently was called Don't Sweat the Small Stuff, and it's all small stuff. That one is a bunch of little mini lessons that we're actually taking as a family on our road trip. And each day we talk about one of I think there's 100 in there. But I really enjoyed Essentialism, just making sure that it goes back to that, which I think is going to be our A of advice, of live intentionally. And Essentialism talks about you choose what you're saying yes to. And if you can't take ownership of that, then you're not living your best life. And so live your best life. And Essentialism is a great book to remind you to do that.
So you already hit it. The first A in badass is advice. And so is that your advice that you'd like to share with everyone?
Yeah, we'll stick with that one, to live intentionally.
Okay. And then let me switch it around on you. What is the best piece of advice you ever received?
Oh, yes. The best piece of advice I ever received was probably there's been a lot of good mentors. Okay. I'm going to go back to the one that I had hanging in my wall as a child. And as a mini entrepreneur in high school, I had a quote on my wall that I would think about all the time. And it came because I love donuts. And it says, "Twixt an optimist and a pessimist, the difference is droll. The optimist sees a donut, the pessimist a hole." And I think there is optimism and pessimism in everything, And on that mountain, when I got hit by an avalanche, I was so tempted to just give up and just be like, I was really good at my career. Maybe I should just go back to corporate America. But I'm really grateful that I was like, you know what? No, I think there's something to learn from this. And that's what I would take away from the donut thing, is there's something to learn in every day, in every trial. And my goal, I'm terrible at it, but it's always in the back of my mind, is every night before I go to bed to thank Heavenly Father, thank God for something that I learned that day. And sometimes they're big lessons, sometimes they're small lessons. It's kind of like a form of giving gratitude. But when I was going through big avalanches, it helped me realize, even when days are hard, what did I learn instead of just what am I grateful for?
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you. And drive, the D in badass. What drives you to be successful?
Yeah, honestly, it's a little bit of frustration with people I love. Meaning, when I first thought, that you might ask that, sometimes my go-to answer is my drive is my kids, for sure. But it's also when I see other people not living their best life, that it's like, it urges me like, okay, if none of y'all are going to do it, I'm going to live my best life for all of y'all. Like, you guys are choosing to do that. And it frustrates me so much that I am going to keep on doing this to show you could too, but you are choosing not to. So I get a little heated, Jen, but my drive is dumb people that just keep on sitting and saying, I wish I could do that. Great. Go do it. Cause I'm doing it, so that's a little bit of a drive of, I wish you could come join me. When I was kind of nervous to announce to the Facebook world or whatever about our trip. And there were a few of my best friends that were like, are you serious? We've been talking about doing that too. And I'm like, oh, I love that. And then I started talking about, okay. And then next year, do you want to do Europe with us? Blah, 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 blah. And then they're like, whoa. Hold up. When I said I wanted to do that, I meant we're going to go for a week. And then we're going to come back to go to our lives. And I was like, what? Like, why? Like, let's live our best lives. So what drives me is my kids and the dream of meeting our potential, because I think God has great things for us to do, and adventure is out there, in the words of Up.
And that's why you are so good at what you do. So that makes sense, that I can see your frustration and where people don't go after their goals and their dreams. The second A in badass is aspiration. So what is a goal? I love asking people about goals. So what is a goal that you are currently working on?
I am working on being a good listener, actually.
I'm sorry, did you say something? What?
I thought I'm a pretty good listener, but I'm learning that it's also something, as it kind of came from negotiations too, that I'm learning to be a better negotiator. But I was reading Never Split the Difference, an awesome book, but also just a couple other things on being a good listener and realizing and don't sweat the small stuff was one of the things that helped me realize, oh my gosh, I'm actually like a terrible listener. So there's a whole bunch of things that go into that, but trying to be a good listener, because I think that's good for my marriage. I think it's good as a parent, but it's also good in my business negotiation skills.
That's a great goal. I love it. The first S in badass is systems. What systems do you have in place that help you to achieve success?
I'm sure everybody talks about their morning routine, which is huge. And so that's usually the go-to answer. But I would say to take it a step further, because everybody needs a morning routine, definitely. But I would say every time I'm doing something, I'm trying to figure out how I don't have to do it again. But I still try to do it 3 times at least. But then if I enjoy it, okay, great. That's great. But if I don't enjoy something, instead of being like, oh gosh, I hate doing this, my thoughts are, how can I make it so that somebody else is doing this for me? How can I systemize this so that I don't have to do this anymore? So if you, instead of taking any of your mind power to, oh gosh, I really hate doing this, all of that mind power should be going to, how can I outsource this? How can I systemize this so that I don't ever have to do this again? Does that make sense? So again, Absolutely. It goes back to the donut. Don't be a pessimist. Just figure out a way to learn from it and make it so that you don't have to do it again.
That's fantastic. Excellent advice there. And then the last S in badass is success. What does success mean to you?
Okay. This is going to get real, peeps. Okay. And if you know my husband, please don't tell him I said this. Okay. So a few weeks ago, it was a few months ago. My husband and I, every night before bed, we kneel down together and we say prayers and we take turns. And during he started saying, and please bless us that we will be successful. And after 2 weeks, on date night, we go on date night every week. After 2 weeks, I was like, hey, babe, can we talk about something? Your prayers lately. And he said, the successful thing. And I said, yes. And he's like, oh, I know it feels wrong. I was like, well, what do you mean by it? Do you just want God to pour down gold, or what, when do we know we've been successful? Usually we usually pray to do whatever God wants us to do, or, to be in tune, or whatever it is that you pray for. But with us, we usually don't, I don't know, to me, when he was praying for success, I was kind of you just want a lot of money. I don't know, it was throwing me off. And so I was like, well, let's talk about what that really means. And so we had this conversation and we talked about how being successful, in my opinion, is to be living the life that we were meant to live. Whatever your background, again, I don't mean to offend, but we came to earth for a reason. And if we're not getting anything out of this earth life, if we're not getting anything, if we're not learning anything, and if we're not helping anyone, then what are we doing here? What are we doing here? So in my opinion, success is being able to live a life that you're proud of and that brings you closer to your potential so that you can better help serve others.
Well, I am proud to call you friend. Thank you so much for being part of this. I think you mentioned before that you have an event coming up in November. Do you want to share that with our listeners?
No, that's when we're launching a few more of our courses. And so, just check out Why Not Me Academy and you'll see the different courses, but also follow me on Instagram at MeiLani Hock and you'll see some of those announcements coming out as well. Once live events, I miss live events. Once live events get going again, I'd love to see you if you're in a city near where I'm speaking. So that's where you can go to find me. Why Not Me Academy and MeiLani Hock on Instagram.
And it's MeiLaniHock. You want to make sure that you spell it correctly to find her. So thank you so very much. I appreciate you. That is all, everyone. Thank you for listening, and we'll catch you on the next episode. Now go out there and share your badassery, and don't forget, make it a great day. Take care. Bye-bye. Whoop, whoop. Whoop, 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 whoop.
Thank you for listening to RAIN, the Real Estate Investor Growth Network. Be sure to subscribe on your favorite podcasting platform so you never miss an episode. If you need more badassery, you can follow Jen Josie by visiting therealjenjosie.com or become a member of RAIN by registering on rainmastermind.com.